All right, now, I have the distinct honor and pleasure to introduce our main speaker, a true public servant, a true guardian of the people not only of Monroe County, but of the state of New York, a lady with intelligence, humor, and a pure patriot. Please welcome, in my opinion, the next County Executive of Monroe County, Cheryl Dinolfo.
Well, good evening, everyone. I'm really thrilled to be here, and I have to tell you that if you give Brian Kolb $5, he'll say the same thing about you, too. So, Brian, thank you so much for your kind introduction. I appreciate it. And I got to tell you that my introduction to my remarks are exactly the same as yours, because I think that they're so important. You know, when we think about today, and we think about the significance of today, you know, we do reflect upon the beginning, right? We always start at the beginning. We want to know what was the intent of our founding fathers when they got together and they drafted the Constitution. And so I did start with the preamble of the Constitution. I'm not going to read it again to you because you heard it once, but I got to tell you that those words, they have meaning. They had meaning over 200 years ago, and they have meaning today. And so when I think about the Constitution signed over 200 years ago by those 39 courageous men and women who, after years of spirited deliberation, debate, reflection, analysis, prayer, and compromise, they joined together and they set the framework for democracy based upon the shared ideals and values of our nation's founders. Our founding fathers understood, valued, and memorialized the proposition that each of us, each man, each woman, is in control of his or her own destiny to shape and form their own future. They knew what that meant. Those words had meaning. The people have will. The people have inalienable rights. It's the promise of the Constitution to all citizens of the United States. It's what propels the United States to greatness. It's the bond, the fabric that joins us together, and it is the framework for democracy that has endured through the years. But you know, it's in this framework that each and every one of us have an important role as citizens of the United States, and that is to protect and preserve freedom and opportunity for all Americans without unnecessary government intervention. And it's with that in mind that I want to say thank you. Thank you to each and every one of you for being here tonight. Because you know what? You're like those founding fathers. You are patriots of freedom. That's why you're here, and I thank you for your support of the Constitution. That's why a night like tonight is so important. And I want to take a minute to thank Charlie Shiano, who I know is one of the founding members of the Constitution Day dinner. We talked earlier today about it and the importance of honoring the Constitution and remembering its significance. So thank you to Charlie for his work, and to everyone who's organized tonight. Wayne Cook and Bill Robinson, the folks from the radio show, and Bob Savage, all of you, you are true patriots. To my fellow government representatives who fight every day to protect the freedoms that we so dearly cherish, to Senator Roebuck, to the members of the legislature, to Assemblyman Ojai, to Assemblyman Kolb, to Peter Lawrence, to our judges, Judge Doran, Judge Piampiano, Judge Taylor's here, and soon to be Judge Judy Sinclair, thank you. To the citizens who are here and present, thank you. So, okay, today, the importance of today. I really thought about, you know, what was I going to say today that would be a little bit different, or maybe what we talked about in the past. So I reflected, and I thought about what would our founding fathers, the framers of the Constitution, what would they have to say about some of the recent laws in the state of New York? Think for a minute, if you can imagine a conversation where George Washington and Benjamin Franklin and Thomas Jefferson and their colleagues are all sitting around. You know, they've probably got a stein of beer, you know, and they're talking, right? They're around a table just like we are. That's what they did. And they're talking one morning. Maybe it was one afternoon because I said they were drinking beer. And they had just learned, to their surprise, that the SAFE Act just passed. Okay? What do you think they might have said? Okay. I know we're on camera, so... Okay, you know, we all have our thoughts on that, right? I think they would have sent us something like this. Well, George, did you hear the news today? Well, Ben, I can't believe it. I'm shocked. Me too, Thomas Jefferson. What do you think we should do about that? How did this happen? You know, they probably would sit around and they would be in total shock and dismay at how certain laws, including the SAFE Act, passed in the state of New York. You know what? These were men of dialogue, of discussion, of intellect, of thought. They were the ones who reached out to their comrades, to the people who they were with, and asked them, what do you want us to do? What are your ideals? What are your values? What do you want to see in your government? And then they acted upon it. So I think if they were here today and they heard about laws that were passed without reflection, laws that were passed without dialogue, laws that were passed without discussion, without debate, without compromise, without input from citizens, and shockingly, without input from stakeholders like those in law enforcement, like those who have knowledge and understanding of gun ownership, like those who have knowledge and understanding of the laws, they would be dismayed. You know what? We look at the laws like the SAFE Act and we have to take a step back and we have to wonder, why would a law force law-abiding citizens to endure scrutiny because they're simply exercising their Second Amendment rights? Why would we have a law that takes properties from citizens, searching and seizing property of law-abiding citizens and violating their Fourth Amendment rights? Why would a restrictive law in the name of safety result in targeting law-abiding citizens like each and every one of you here, rather than those who break the law? You know what? This is not the intent or the vision of George Washington, Benjamin Franklin, Thomas Jefferson. When they penned the Constitution, I submit that they would be dismayed. And they would act. They would act. You know, when I think about today, and I think about laws like the one we just mentioned, you know what? We want everyone to be safe, right? We want to make sure that every person in this county, in this country is safe. But we want to make sure that our laws target the right people. Imagine if all the resources that were used to enforce the SAFE Act were diverted in a more meaningful way. Right? To address crime, to enforce laws that we currently have in New York State. When we look at the Second Amendment restrictively, we open the door to restrictive interpretation of other amendments as well. And as a result, we diminish the framework for democracy that our founding fathers established over 200 years ago. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is where you come in. You have First Amendment rights, right? Freedom of speech, right to assemble, right to petition government, to address grievances. That's why you're here. You believe in the Constitution. You believe in the freedoms that were established over 200 years ago. I applaud each and every one of you for being here today. I applaud each and one of you for standing shoulder to shoulder, for standing up for what is right, for seeking to have grievances addressed, and for exercising your very rights, the very fabric that is the United States of America. Before I conclude, I want to take a minute to thank my fellow county clerks who are here today. If you don't mind, I just ask that they might stand. We have several county clerks from the surrounding counties. We have Indy J. Cox, Matt Hoos, and Don Reed who are here. And I want to talk for a minute about the county clerks. Guys, thank you. Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen. You know, we've talked about what we can do when we stand shoulder to shoulder and we stand for what is right. And these fine men and gentlemen, ladies and gentlemen, who are my colleagues in county government and county clerks, they've done some incredible things, and you stood with us too. There were some laws that were passed, there were some acts that were passed, there were fights that had to be fought, and they stood right on the front lines, and I thank you for that. To our representatives, the Assembly and the Senate, you were with us as well. To our friends in the audience, I want you to know that each and every one of you upholds the ideals and values that are embodied in the Constitution. I want you to know that I, like you, will always stand up for what is right and do the right thing. We don't shy away from the right thing. When we see something that needs to be changed, we address it. That's what we do as Americans. So, we're supposed to be brief, and I'm going to end here. There's another amendment that I want to discuss, and that's the 8th Amendment, which you know forbids cruel and unusual punishment. So with your permission, I'm going to end here so I don't violate the 8th Amendment. God bless each and every one of you. Enjoy this evening.